We have this false notion that holiness and piety robs us of pleasure. If I give up all sins, I'll have a very boring life and become a very boring person. The reality is quite contrary to that. All that sin does is it gives us fleeting pleasure and leaves us hollow and empty. Sin never satisfies us and takes us more and more into it. One sin takes us to several other sins. Lasting happiness cannot be found apart from Almighty Allah, and therefore sin will never be a genuine source of happiness. We therefore need to understand how sin is robbing us of happiness. There are several ways in which it affects us and steals our happiness. The first is, sin drains our iman and distances us from Allah. It is in a narration that the Messenger ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْعَبْدَ إِذَا أَخْطَأَ خَطِيئَةً نُكِتَتْ فِي قَلْبِهِ نُكْتَةً سَوْدَى. When a person commits a sin, it leaves a black spot on the heart. فَإِذَا هُوَ نَزَفَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ وَتَابَ سُقِلَ قَلْبُهُ. If the person abstains and makes tawbah, it is wiped out. And if the person returns to the sin, then the black dot increases. And this continues until eventually ta'luwa qalbahu. It engulfs his entire heart. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this person's situation by saying, Kalla bal rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun. Nay, their hearts have been covered in rust as the result of their actions. Sin affects our relationship with Allah. Allah is the source of all happiness. If we are distant from Allah, how will we be happy? Through continuous disobedience, we lose our sense of differentiation. We become indifferent. And as a result, we have no regard as to what is right and what is wrong. We no longer, therefore, experience the enjoyment that ibadah has to offer. It feels like a burden. We hear people saying, Ramadan is really pulling now. I can't wait for Eid. This 20 rakats is just becoming too much now. This is because of the impact of sin upon us and that it has distanced us from Allah. The second impact that sin has is that it affects our interpersonal relationships. The relationship between husband and wife, between parent and child, sibling and the extended family and all of that. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, وَمَا تَوَادَّ رَجُلَانِ فِي اللَّهِ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى فَتُفُرِّقَ بَيْنَهُمَا إِلَّا بِذَنْبٍ يُحْدِثُهُ أَحَدُهُمَا. When two people have mutual love for the pleasure of Allah and they sense alienation between the two of them, it is as a result of the sin that one of them may have committed. Research is showing that having deep, meaningful relationships are essential for our happiness. Sin affects our relationships, create doubts and misgivings between people, and thus affect our happiness. The third impact that sin has in stealing our happiness is that sin constrains our sustenance. We are living in an era where there are high levels of unemployment. There's hyperinflation. Most of us are struggling to make ends meet. And we'd all love to have the luxury of extra resources at our disposal. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, وَإِنَّ الرَّجَلَ لَا يُحْرَمُ الرِّزْقَ بِذَنْبٍ يُصِيبُهُ. A person is deprived of sustenance because of a sin that he commits. Sin caused us to be deprived of sustenance. We are quick to blame others and very reluctant to be critical of ourselves and to analyze our own behavior and possible consequences that it may be having. Why don't we ask ourselves, what if my actions are causing this? What if my bad habits are depriving me of the blessings in my sustenance? And thus, the lack of sustenance now robbing me of my happiness. The fourth impact that sin has is that it makes us discontented and disillusioned with life. Inner happiness then eludes us. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَالْإِثْمُ مَا حَاكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ وَكَرِهْتَ أَن يَطَّلِعَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ. Sin creates unease and fear that people may become aware of your misdeeds. So sin robs us of our peace of mind. People say that, feeling so restless, but I can't put my finger on it. It may well be the sins that you are committing, the immoral and illicit content you are viewing, the bad things you are saying about others, the way you've done others down in your business dealings. All of this has an impact in creating the discontent. Sin creates that unease and discomfort in the heart. The fifth way in which sin is affecting us is that it becomes a barrier in the acceptance of our du'as. The poet says, نَحْنُ نَدْعُ الْإِلَهَ فِي كُلِّ كَرْبٍ ثُمَّ نَنْسَاهُ عِنْدَ كَشْفِ الْكُرُوبِ كَيْفَ نَرْجُو إِجَابَةً لِدُعَاءٍ قَدْ صَدَدْنَا طَرِيقَهَا بِالذُّنُوبِ. We call to Allah at the time of all of our difficulties, yet we forget Him when times are good. How do we expect our du'as to be accepted when we are blocking the way to the acceptance with our sins? We all get very happy when our du'as are accepted. And there are so many things that we may have made du'a for in the past that we are now enjoying today. And we would like our du'as to be continuously accepted. Sin becomes a barrier in bringing us the happiness of having our du'as accepted. So these are the negative consequences of sin, that it distances us from Allah, it creates discord between people, it deprives us of sustenance, it robs us of peace of mind, and it's a barrier in the acceptance of our dua. Each of these things directly impact our happiness and result in our happiness being taken away. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, that verily those who believe, their hearts find peace and comfort with Allah, and indeed, in the remembrance of Allah will hearts find comfort. All acts of obedience is really the remembrance of Allah, and therefore all acts of obedience will bring peace and comfort. Sin is the antithesis and the opposite of obedience, and therefore it will have the opposite effect, and sin will bring unhappiness and depression. When we fully comprehend the devastating impact of sin on our private, personal and public lives, this will make us realize that really it is sin that is bringing us unhappiness.